Welcome to Canadian Beer Journal. My name is Kevin. I haven't posted in a while again. Anyone who's in their last year of law school know why it's been a busy couple of weeks, but through it, everything worked out, so I'm quite happy. I did, since the last post, get back from the beer festival. I went with my dad down in Buffalo. It was actually the Beer, Bacon, and Boobs Festival. This is done for breast cancer, actually. Um, yeah, there was a fair amount of beer, not much of anything else that was advertised, but sort of a smaller event than, say, something like Beer Fest. It was interesting going so close after that. This was a bit more informal. There's really only one tent. I think there's about 20 brewers there, including Flying Monkeys, who are near here, so it was kind of funny to see those guys up there. Um, but yeah, it was a great little festival. Had some really decent beers. It was kind of a strange time though, because it was from 12 to 4, sort of. So you're drinking all these beers in the middle of the day. Um, Maybe not ideal. I think they had a later tasting as well, but we decided to go for the extended tasting. The later tasting was only 3 hours. We figured rather than trying to pack everything into the shorter tasting, we'll just go a bit earlier. So it worked out. While we were down there, we saw some other cool things. We went down to the Naval Park in downtown Buffalo. But we also got to a craft beer joint called Premier Gourmet. And if you're ever near Buffalo, you're ever near the border, make the trip, get down there. They advertise that they have 1,500 varieties of craft beer, and I wouldn't be surprised. Their selection was just insane. And unfortunately, I had to abide by the criminally low um, bottle amount that you're allowed to bring back. Well, it's 8.5 liters. But I did manage to snag some pretty cool things, which we'll maybe be doing over a couple of reviews. Some of them I'm going to save and meter out. A couple of them will only be going into the written reviews that I do on the blog. Just it's not always practical to line up every single beer review as a video review. But the one I am going to do today for you guys is the Stone RuinTen 2014. Awesome looking bottle there. Stone's really been getting creative with their silkscreen bottle art. Between the Stochasticity product and these collaborations, I think they've been hiring different artists to do them. And this one's got a real kind of almost Art Deco-y kind of. You can see all the little details in it. So the story behind this beer, for those of you who are Stone drinkers, know of the Ruination, their inaugural double IPA. It was one of the first on the market. In fact, I think it was the first one with bottles. And they've been going strong with that. For the 10th anniversary, back in 2012, they decided to do a doubled up version called RuinTen, Ruination 10th anniversary. And of course, Stone being what they are, releasing another hoppy beer, it went gangbusters. They decided to re-release it. And it's now going to be an annual release from the looks of things, and great. I've been looking forward to trying it for a while. When it first came out, I was nowhere near the distribution area up in Ontario, so I couldn't get it. And yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but this time it just happened to line up. I got into the Premier Gourmet as they were having them. Although actually what had happened, interestingly enough, my buddy Patrick, who was coming up from South Carolina, managed to snag a couple on his way there, so I didn't have to pick him up there. But if you read on the blog post, you understand why I'm suddenly sort of inundated with all these great craft beers. Not a bad position to be in, by the way. In terms of what I got down there, this isn't everything, but just to show you some idea, I managed to snag a bottle of the Worldwide Stout, which I might age this out for a year or two. This is the 2013, late 2013, December 12th bottling. I hear that this one's really at its best in about 5 years, so and I believe that particular bottling was 18%. From Left Hand Brewing, Chainsaw Ale, which is a neat double ESB. Not sure, they do have a best by date there. They say it's going to be best by mid-2015, but I might drink this one a little bit fresh since it's based on an English bitter. Tends to be better, a little bit fresher. And this was really interesting. They had the Sierra Nevada Bigfoot Ale, as you can see. But really cool. They'd apparently hung on to a couple of 6-packs from last year, so I got the 2013 as well, which somebody would do a vertical tasting or something on the channel. May get another person to help me out with that, just to make sure we're getting as many flavors as we can. Over here from Weyerbacher, I got their Blasphemy. This is their bourbon barrel aged Belgian quad. Probably save this one for the winter, especially this is 12%. Yeah, it's probably going to need a little bit of time just to calm down. This is a beer I hadn't heard of from, where are you? Caldera Brewing, Mowgli. It's an oak aged chocolate porter. So that looks like just a little bit differently. You know, I like all the imperial stouts and that sort of thing, but it's nice to see a slightly different take on it. And you know, the lab on there couldn't really resist. It's got a bit of a sob story on the side about how it's a dedication beer. So looking forward to tucking into that sometime later. And I got another one that's pretty special, which I might save for another review. Alrighty, there were some others. I'll be posting them, as I say, on the written channel as well. So let's get the top off of this. There was a bottled on date on here at some point, but the problem is whatever process Stone is using, it smudges off really easily. Like, I know my beers particularly tend to get a lot of condensation on them, just happen to be in a more humid environment. But this happened way before I put them in the fridge, so you know, I guess they can only do what they can do, but it's just kind of annoying because they have all these things, you know, drink fresh, drink immediately, and X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, but I can't tell what the date is on it. That's at a limited release Stone. You're probably not going to be getting it too late after it comes out. And I saw the date on the bottle of this. I don't know, it's so good. Alright, let's get into the glass here. I'm using the snifter. Sometimes for a double IPA, I'll use just a standard shaker. I don't find with all the hop aromas in them that they need that much help. This one swinging pretty heavy, 10.8%, 110 IBUs. The final dry hopping was done with a mixture of Centennial and Citra, which is nice to see. I've been saying it for a while now, but it's just getting kind of repetitive to see every brewery doing single hop Citra ale. I know that Citra is a complex hop. I know it can produce some very good beer just by itself, but I think we're past the point where just doing it alone is really enough, and I think most people are starting to realize you can get a better beer with Citra in it if you add it to a hop bill to sort of augment it. So, anyway, enough of a rant. You can see we got a very nice orange color, very typical double IPA. Didn't get a huge head, it's just sticking around a little bit. Looks pretty viscous there in the glass. Get a nose on it. Tropical fruit up front. Some pine, obviously, in the background. Getting a bit of that candy, sweet malt, a bit of like a pear, almost, sort of a note, like pear skin. Definitely got lots and lots of hops packed in there, so haven't let this one cellar or anything like that. Not too much of an ethanol nip on it right now, but it is straight out of the fridge, so we'll see. 10.8%. Stone tends to like their double IPAs a bit more wild, so I'm not expecting the booze to stay in the background very long, but cheers. Pretty much what it says on the tin. It is a massive, massive hop hit right on the front of the palate. Lots and lots of bitter notes. As it was on the nose, you are getting sort of a mixture of the tropical fruit. You're getting some of the pine, maybe a little bit of citrus, but really what I'm getting primarily is tropical fruit and pine. So I guess what we're getting mostly there is the late dry hopping Citra and Centennial. It's kind of neat. It's kind of a mix of the old school and the new school. It's almost like having two IPAs jammed into one, and it's different. Like I said, the fact that everyone for a while there was just doing single Citra hop pale ales and IPAs. It was interesting, but I think more can be accomplished by mixing it up with other hops as well. Finish is extremely bitter. I am getting a bit of the booze already. 10.8%. There wasn't going to be much of a way to hide that. Sweet, sticky sort of malt. Yeah, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's a crazy, high alcohol, high hop, double IPA or imperial IPA. Um, I know other breweries probably at this stage have called it triple IPA. It's in the same sort of stat range as Pliny the Younger from Russian River. That's their draft-only release. Usually comes out in the spring. Um, or Founder's Devil Dancer. So I'm going to let it warm up a bit, probably not too much, and just see what sort of changes we get. And I'll get back to you then. All right, see you in a little bit. Welcome back. So now that this beer's warmed up a little bit, I haven't let it get really up to room temperature. It's definitely got the malt backbone coming alive, so you're getting more candied notes. And when those mix with the hop notes, you end up getting some interesting flavors, kind of like candied pineapple. If you've ever had those dried pineapple slices, I'm getting some of that in the nose. There's more of a dankness in the hop profile, kind of like a Simcoe hop sort of. I would describe it as flooded basement. Some other people describe it as like sort of a cat pee sort of smell. Maybe that's why it takes people so long to get into IPAs and stuff like that, is that we make them sound so disgusting. And hoppy beer drinkers always tell you, oh, it's in a good way. It smells like cat pee in a good way. And, you know, if you've had a few and if you enjoy it, you'll get it. Otherwise, yeah, I can see why you think some of us are crazy drinking these. So definitely got that dank sort of thing happening, a sort of indistinct herbal note. A ginger, actually. Well, that's not the herbal note, but that's sort of the overall effect of that slight sweetness coming out, and also the alcohol coming out, and just it all mixing together, and you're getting some really neat combinations of aromatics in the nose. On the palate, start again. More pine up front, a little bit of gingered candied pineapple in the middle, huge bitter finish, and then breathing out all the alcohol just does. Alcohol has definitely come to life in this beer. 10.8%. Like I was saying right from the beginning, I didn't think it was going to exactly be a shrinking violet. And it's pretty much exactly where I thought it would be in terms of just really intense alcohol heat. So overall, with this beer versus the regular Ruination, I would think on a sort of day-to-day basis, I would pick the standard Ruination over this, but that's not what this beer is for. This beer is released once a year for a reason. It's silly, it's extreme, it's designed to just be a kind of beer that, you know, you go racing to the store to go get it, come back and just, whoa, like, you know, just huge blast of flavors, and it's almost a physical experience and just how much you're sort of breathing out the ethanol vapors, how bitter it is. It's almost tightening your tongue up. So you have to gauge it by your palate. If you really like double IPAs and you tend to like more extreme double IPAs, then yes, you're going to like this beer as almost a novelty. I wouldn't call this an everyday drinker, definitely. It's definitely not a chore for me to get through, but definitely it deserves a bit of respect as you're drinking it. But if you haven't had a lot of bitter beers or you haven't really enjoyed a lot of bitter beers, this one is really not going to do it for you. I would stay away. Maybe come back to it in a year or two if you've been developing your palate that way, or don't. That's the neat thing about craft beers. There's room for people with so many different palates. I know people that won't go near an IPA, but they can detect things in a porter or a wheat beer that I just can't see, and that's why it's great to talk to them. It's great to have a range of palates in your beer drinking circle. So don't feel obligated to go after these beers just because of the hype or because they happen to be blowing up on Rate Beer with a bunch of people who, let's face it, are only going to post if they have a really extreme opinion about it one way or another. So, anyhow, food pairing for this, it's always difficult when you're talking about extreme beers like this. I think this one might be okay with, just spicier pairings, because although it does have that sweet side, It's a little bit backed off from, say, something like a Russian Imperial Stout or a great big barley wine. Pair it with something spicy, I would say. Um, Something with some grilled, some smoked flavors will definitely do well with this beer. Some chili would do really, really well. Fish tacos is the standard pairing for IPAs and things like that. Maybe some spicier Chinese, Thai, Indian food. India Pale Ale sort of makes sense. People sometimes forget about it. I would think it's fairly food friendly with a high heat sort of meal. Um, but it's going to be up to you. If I think there's a legitimate concern that a beer this big might overwhelm what you're drinking, but again, that's why it's here. It's not really here to play nice like another IPA. It's here just to be extreme and for you to enjoy it. So, if you are in the areas where this has been distributed and you like big hoppy beers, I would definitely pick it up. And until then, we'll see you in the next one.